Because now it's in May, and you had 3 wins in a row, which is pretty good for anybody. 3 wins in a row, then a runner-up, and then another win at Fontana. So in 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, so they were talking about the 1 win in April, 3 wins in a row, runner-up, a win at Fontana, and the next day, runner-up at the pond.
Dang.
So you guys are getting well.
Fontana when they kicked a rod out of the motor, but they were still in the money, and all they had to do was get the thing down the track somehow, and the wild idea came up to make a little band-aid repair with some cardboard and some duct tape and a lot of crossed fingers. We have some pictures now that shows more of the players besides Tom and Bob. Tom, do you want to talk about some of these people?
Yeah, there's only 3 known pictures of this event that happened at Fontana. And we've blown the side of the block out by kicking a rod out. And so the Gene Mooneyham's crew and the team of Gall and Thode, they twist our arm and put us up to this scheme, this madness. And so they both say, well, we'll take, they were already out of competition, already got knocked out for whatever. And they said, we'll take whatever you need off our cars or whatever. Let's do it. We'll help you. Okay, good. So, says, okay, the first thing we got to do is we got to get Jim Brissette. Brissette is the master of blowing up things. He knows all about everything. So we go get Brissette. We told Brissette what we're going to do. We need your help. Okay, so you know him. He always had his great big flashlight, and he had a Win with Donovan sweatshirt on. Here comes Brissette. So he's the supervisor on this project, right? So we've got the people who've instigated it, and now we have our supervisor. And so off we go. So here's the car, and these are some pictures that I marked up at some point. You can see it says Goodyear on the tire. Mm-hmm. So the dragster's up.
It's up on its side.
Mm-hmm. It's on its side. And this is Frank Pedregon, the famous Frank Pedregon.
Yes.
In the white jacket, looking back at the camera. He stood right there the entire time this whole deal happens. The car's on its side, and he's standing there making stuff happen. And this is Brissette, Win with Donovan sweatshirt.
Uh-huh.
Jim Brissette, got his flashlight. This is Dick Stahl. S-T-A-H-L, Dick Stahl from Culver City.
Yeah.
He hung on to the front wheel. This front wheel's up in the air, and he's hanging on to it like a bus driver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stabilizing the whole thing.
Yeah, and he's a big guy. He's probably your size, maybe even taller. I don't know,
Yeah.
6'9" or something.
Yeah.
And all these other people, some of these guys worked, they were all on different teams or worked at the drag strip or whatever, right? So anyway, the reason we got the car up on the side is we know in order to get the silver tape and the cardboard stuck on the side of the block, we've got to get all the oil washed off of it. And we always carried a gallon of acetone for cleaning things. So we figured we get it up on the side, then we can wash it down and just let it run off and get it good and where silver duct tape is going to stick. And so we're taking the parts off of our car, and they're taking parts off of their cars, Mooneyham and Gall and Thode. And
how big is the area that's missing? as big as your fist. But
about like this.
yeah. Okay.
It's gone. And
The regular size hole a connecting rod would make.
yeah, and this is
A picture
part of
window. Yeah.
and this is the pan rail
Right.
where the
Yeah,
pan
right.
screws on. you know.
Yeah.
So like this much
Okay.
is gone. And so
Including the pan rail, or was it still there?
yeah, no, that much of the pan rail's gone too.
Okay.
So take all that old trash off and pitch it, and so somebody takes their stuff off of one of the cars. I don't remember whose car everything came off of, and so we had to use a different oil pump because it knocked off the pickup thing. Goes to the bottom. The pan obviously is trash. Get all these other parts, and we clean things off. Oh, and then because the rod broke, it broke up high, up right below the wrist pin. So we took the rest of the rod off of the crank, and we wrapped tape and hose clamps around there, so that the
To
oil
seal the oil passage.
so that the oil pressure wouldn't get away. And then we took.
Add a little bob weight to it too. That was
Yeah, a little bobble. and then we took some kind of pry bar or something, and we went up in the bore and we boogered up the piston to make sure that it wouldn't fall down out of the cylinder, right? Fall down and get further involved. Then we disconnected the both rocker arms, taped that spark plug wire to ground, and flopped it down on its wheels, right? Before we do that, here's one of the other pictures.
you got bob in it.
The guy with the white, that's Bob Skinner that marked it. That's me.
You know he has a big smile on his face too, probably. Can't believe the whole thing. That's
And you know what? That's the most mussed up I've seen you look. In any of the pictures I see of you, you look like you're pretty beat up at
well.
this point.
Bob and Tom had a big deal about staying
Yeah.
clean at the track.
Yeah.
This was not that day.
And we're working with
60-weight moose.
you know, there's oil all over everything from when this thing exploded, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I keep going like this on my hair, and pretty soon I got these,
Big cowlick.
yeah,
It's like a mustache on your forehead.
yeah, big 60-weight clumps of hair.
Yeah.
And the more you flipped them back, the stronger and meatier they got, right? There's our pal John Peters. He was there. Roy Thody, one of the instigators, is here.
Yeah.
Here's a guy from John Mousy Wilson. His nickname was Mousy. He's from Texas. He lived out here for a while, drove Top Fuel. He was driving some other dragster that night. Mousy.
Now, is anybody in the crowd taking this serious, or do they think you're going to push it back on the wheels and then laugh and push it up on the trailer? Or people,
no,
people
they-
are totally on board with this.
Oh no, they know this is going to happen.
Okay.
And everybody in the pit area is helping, doing something, cheering or holding or
Or placing bets on how long it's going to
doing
last.
something, yeah. Oh, and that's another thing about how long it's going to last.
Brissette made a
Brissette-
prediction.
No, and I asked for the prediction. I
Yes.
says, we told him what we were going to do, and he just shakes his head.
Yeah.
But then he was on board with let's do it. And then I said, how far is this thing going to go? He says, 900 feet, 1,000 feet. And sounded good enough to me. That's,
Good, it's far enough to win.
yeah, we might win.
Do you remember who you were racing by chance?
Yeah, we were racing the Howard Cam Rattler,
Rattler.
I believe. And they end up winning. The story had been told so many times that I thought we won. But we didn't. Because there were versions of the story. Before the internet kind of brought all the facts, a lot of these stories were kind of flawed. And anyway, the truth of the matter is we did not win. We were out front, going away, except for it stopped.
It stopped.
It
And they
went
didn't
away.
stop, and they kept going, and they won. And Nick Arias, I don't know about now, but for years he had a big picture of that on his wall in his office.
And the picture depicted what?
Them winning over us
Okay.
on that last round.
And of course, Mike was totally on board. He was like, "Let's go,
He's-
fearless."
Yeah, and we flopped it down on its wheels.
And you
gave
dumped oil in it, and
gave it a drink of
100%?
98 or whatever.
Here we
okay.
go.
He says, "Is this thing ready?" Yeah, we're ready. Okay. He hops in.
I was about halfway down.
You were?
at that race.
What did you
I'm
see?
scratching my head at what they were doing because I knew what they were doing, and I couldn't believe it. So I got about halfway down because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And when it lit, it thundered just like normal, and I went, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
Maybe shaking
And
a
sure
little.
enough, here it comes.
Whoop.
That was it.
What made the thing really sound good was it only had 7 cylinders, but it had the same blower going the same speed it was going, so it's squeezing it into 7 instead of 8.
Oh.
And we didn't change the fuel. We figured, well, let's just get the other 7 and do a little extra work. Maybe we'll be good, you know.
Yeah.
So
The 7 were hitting hard.
It thundered.
Until it went boom.
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
And the reason it finally blew up was just all the trash, the damage from the oiling system and all the crap, and it just took out all the bearings, and the rest of it flew apart, right?
And 90 psi on a hose clamp will
Right.
usually overcome.
Yeah.
the
Yeah. And then the track cleaner upper guy has got some work to do.
But it was the last round of the night. It was
Yeah.
it was over. Nobody cared.
If you blow up after 1,000 feet, it takes so long for the oil to get out that it doesn't make a puddle. It's a fine mess.
And good old Brissette, boy, I mean, he didn't miss it. Right on schedule. Boom. That
Wow.
was it.
Amazing.
And Brissette, he's blown up so much stuff. One time I was in this big marketplace that had a food court, and I was telling this story to somebody, and I was looking around, and I said, our man Brissette has probably blown up enough stuff to fill this place. I mean, right to the top. Big.
Yeah.
But not because he didn't know what he was doing. He would just lean on stuff hard.
He ran it hard.
Yeah. It wasn't that he
Don't
was.
throw him in the first round.
No.
No, you draw him
When
in the
it's
first
fresh, when it's
Yeah.
fresh, your history.
your history. Your only hope is to catch him later when the thing weakens,
Yeah.
and even then you needed some good luck.
Yeah. And his drivers had to be
Oh, yeah.
credited
And
with
to be
driving
slightly
those
ahead
things.
when it blows up.
Yeah.
And he always had good drivers. Bill Alexander, Paul Sutherland,
Yeah.
there's some of the
Kelly
others.
Brown for a little bit.
Yeah, Kelly Brown.
Kelly Brown for a little bit.
All good drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a good driver in a car that they know is just bad to the bone
Yeah.
is really a good driver.
Right.
When a driver, I don't care how good they are, when they're in something they know it's weak, they don't really have their heart in it.
Yeah.
But you take a good guy and put him in Brissette's car.
Yes.
Sutherland pretty much owned Fontana, and then he crashed in March of '65, and that took him out of competition. But he ran several. This was a 200-mile-an-hour era where they were going from everybody running 195 to everybody running over 200 because of the hitters. And he would go out to Fontana and win the money on a regular basis. Then after he crashed, the surfers kind of took over the picture and won on a regular basis. The air was different at Fontana, but it wasn't terrible. It was drier out
You
there.
could see it a lot.
Yeah,
It was
you
foggy
could.
out
It was
there.
thick.
No question about that.
Well,
Maybe
there
the
was this-
hydrocarbons that
there
were
was
in
a
the air
steel
made you a lot
plant.
better.
Yeah.
There was a
fuel in
big
the air.
steel making plant
Is that what it was?
right next to it,
Okay.
and
Kaiser Steel.
Kaiser Steel,
Mm.
and they didn't have any rules like they have now. The rules, Southern California rules, put them out of business in California.
Right.
So the smog was more terrible than any other time in history. Growing up in Southern California, you always could tell when Fontana was making steel. I lived in Westminster, which was about 30 miles away, but you would go, as a kid, you would go to play and you went to take a deep breath and it felt like somebody just slugged you in the chest. And that was from the sulfur in making steel. And so you always knew when they were making steel because you'd smell it and it would hurt your lungs. And that's what finally put them out of business. And there's lots of pictures you'll see of Fontana where it looks like foggy, and it was smog. It was the
Yeah.
smog was going